In this video, I'm going to show you how to make fading text over an object fade in and fade out over time rather than just appear statically over an object. And so we're just going to start with a blank script and we'll modify this in real time and speed it up a little bit so you can see what we're doing. I'm going to start by creating a few variables at the top of the script, and I'll show you how we're going to use these later on. The text itself we're using in the script is static, but the other variables are not and can be changed to change the way the script works, as you'll see later on as well. And all we're really using in this case is a timer event, which is what we're going to use to actually change the nature of the transparency of the text itself. The timer event itself is something you can actually change around as well to change the nature of the effect to make it slower or faster. Okay, so let's walk through what this script is doing. We're starting off with the state entry and setting a timer event to go off every 0.2 seconds. So every 0.2 seconds, we're going to trigger this timer event. At this time, we're going to set the text with the floating text we've set up here, which is static. We're going to set it in black, which is the color here, 000. And we're going to use the current transparency, which starts off at 0 and is going to change each time it cycles through the timer event. So what we're doing is we're saying the current transparency, we're going to add whatever the change is, which in this case we set the change to 0.02, and we're going to multiply that by the direction, which to start with is 1. So the first time through and each time through, the change will be 0.02 times 1, which will be 0.02. And then we're going to a if statement where we're saying if the current transparency is greater than 1 or if the current transparency is less than 0, we're going to change the direction. And the way we're going to change the direction is to multiply it by -1. So we run through this cycle, and once the current transparency is larger than 1, the direction is going to be multiplied by -1, which is going to change the direction from +1 to -1. So that the next time through, the current transparency is going to be the change times the direction, which will be -0.02, and we'll start subtracting from the transparency, and essentially we'll be making it more and less transparent each time through, and each time we reach 1, the transparency will then start to fade and reach 0, and once it reaches 0, it will start to become opaque again, and slowly until it reaches 1, and it'll just cycle through over and over. And so that's what that looks like here, and you can see the text just fades in and out over and over as the transparency over time gets darker and lighter, more opaque, less opaque. Now this value on the setText function current trans, the max value is 1.0 and the minimum value is 0.0, 0.0 being completely transparent and 1.0 being completely opaque. So those are the maxes. So even if you set that value to a higher number like 20 or 50, it's still actually going to max out at 1.0. And so at 0 is the same thing. If you set the value below 0 to -1 or -5, it's still going to basically default back to 0, which is opaque completely. But because of that, you're able to actually change some of these numbers around to allow the transparency or the opaqueness to last a little bit longer. So if you set the transparency number, let's just say in the beginning of this comparative to 2, and this last value in this comparative to -1, what'll happen is it'll reach its max opaqueness at 1, but the variable will continue to increase until it reaches 2, and then it'll start to decline, meaning that it'll remain opaque for a few extra moments while it gets up to 2, and then it comes back down to 1, and then it'll slowly fade until it becomes completely transparent at 0, but the variable will continue to decline all the way until it gets down to -1, so it'll remain completely transparent until it goes back up to 0 again on the increase, and then in doing so provides you a way to control the transparency and opaqueness. We're also going to change the change value here as well to make it actually change a little bit faster. And we'll set the timer event to trigger a little bit faster as well. And you can see that changes the look a little bit, as it'll just stay opaque just a little bit longer, and it'll actually stay transparent just a little bit longer. Let's change the first value in this comparative to something a little bit higher, and we'll change the change variable to something a little bit higher as well, and that'll make it change a little bit faster. And it should stay opaque a little bit longer now in this case, but it'll still be transparent for the same amount of time as it was last time, and then it'll start becoming opaque and stay opaque much longer now with this setting. So you can fool around with these settings to make the text appear longer or stay transparent longer, and there's all kinds of things you can do with that as well. Hopefully this is helpful, and hopefully you get some usage out of this. And if you did, make sure you like the video and stay tuned for the next one coming soon. Thanks again.